Hey traders from around the world, what's going on? It's me, Jeremy Alexander Newsome with reallifetrading.com. Hope everyone's doing fantastic. Got the SPY here on the board, and there's not a whole heck of a lot to talk about on the SPY today. Trend looks okay. Again, volume is kind of declining. I had a big target here at 267.47. But as I was mentioning the other day, I think we're getting close enough to call it, yeah, we're pretty much hitting it. Because again, at this level, if and when, mostly when, SPY breaks above this high, we're going to keep going. And we might see 280 potentially. So a little bit of a consolidation here, a little bit of a rest. It was needed. We're slowing down. Some small weakness in the tech sector, nothing too crazy, but certainly a slowdown for sure. Had a good amount of requests today, so let's go ahead and get those covered. Here's Intel, take some INTC. Intel, you have a nice little retest gap action right here. White candle gapping up, so that's the retest gap. Had a nice little run, and this is the retest. So we actually traded down to the 50 EMA on Intel. Is it going to bounce? This is a very good question. My only thought is going to be if it does, this is where. Here's the weekly chart, and the weekly chart you pull down to the 10. This, in my opinion, would be some type of 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Now, again, if it doesn't bounce here, we'll probably go a little bit lower. Remember, this is Intel, not the sexiest stock in the world by any means, but there is plenty of room for this monster to go higher if and when this pullback gets completed. So again, here's the weekly chart. So it might take some time, but that breakout here at 37.50, a good pullback into that price range. If this is not the bounce, a pullback a little bit farther and eventually move higher on Intel makes a lot of sense. Here's Halliburton, ticker symbol HAL. And Halliburton also on, this is the monthly chart, very choppy, very sideways. Weekly chart, pretty sideways, pretty choppy. Daily charts is going to be about the same, pretty sideways and pretty choppy. Now, if you're looking at a bigger picture and you're like, yeah, well, overall the stock's going pretty sideways, this is when you look for buy low, sell high opportunities. A little bit of that's the short-term channel that we're in right now, and you'll notice we're kind of right smack in the middle of that, setup, if you will. So my thought on Halliburton: very sideways, very choppy. If it trades down to 41, it's buyable. If it trades up into about 46, it is sellable. Snapchat, a lot of people made some money on Snapchat yesterday. This was a perfect bullish gap and go on Snapchat. Very good move yesterday. And today we have an inside day candle. Now here's the long-term moving averages on Snapchat. We are above it, which is very interesting. So I know Snapchat is just hemorrhaging money. I think their last performance, we were talking about, they made $700 million in sales, and they spent 3.2 billion, and that's with an L. So fundamentally, still a little bit of weak stock for sure, but just looking at this technical chart, very good gap, very good volume, and if I were going to take Snapchat bullish, this is how. The biggest question is just realistically, how far would it move? And my thought is probably not that far. Here's Disney. Disney's shocking the world right now with this beautiful retest gap that happened on the 4th of December with some talks about buying Fox News. Very, very nice bullish gap. Let me just talk about this gap for just a quick moment. So if you're looking at nothing other than candles, yes, it is a retest gap, but this is when knowing the strength of the gap can really come in handy. This was a picturesque, perfectly placed, beauteous gap, just barely above the high of this candle, the high of this candle. These candles had some upper wicks. So even though some bears were trapped, they weren't trapped bad, and they were totally comfortable with buying to cover, and the bulls didn't feel like they were missing out on the trade, so they hopped on. So there was just tons of buying. Truly, this is a retest gap, and it is retesting. But in situations like this, when you're day trading, these perfectly placed retest gaps usually don't retest, especially if there's some very good upper shadows before the gap. So here's the 5-minute chart before the market opened, and I'll turn on the extended hours and just kind of look at this nice run up. So before market open, I mean, this was a doozy. So simple. Look at that upper shadow in the pre-market. You got this doji. Entry would have been there. Stop would have been there. Home run on Disney. Very nice little trade. A lot of traders made some good money on that. And then, you know, when everyone got home from work and they checked their Scottrade or E-Trade accounts and they saw that Disney was up big, well, they sold. And now we're pulling back into this gap. So the long-term moving averages on Disney, bouncing around the 200 simple on the daily. Here's the weekly, and I still feel like it's a good little breakout, but we are in a little bit of a channel, triangle right now. So could we have another rotation down? Yes. Very interesting upper shadow on the weekly chart. Now granted, it's only Wednesday, so I'm hoping this upper shadow doesn't begin as big. But if it does close like this on the weekly, Disney will probably see some lower moves down to maybe 90, maybe all the way down to 90. I'd be shocked if that happened, but eventually, especially with Star Wars coming out, just got my tickets yesterday, I think Disney will kind of pop, personally, longer term. If and when we break out of this triangle, could move really nicely. Let's go look at Momo, and Momo, not really doing anything that exciting. Here's the weekly chart, and we did break below the 100 simple moving average on the weekly, and we are retesting that from the bottom. Now granted, Momo did actually have some pretty good earnings, and there were a few traders who did some put sales at $24.50 expiring last Friday. If you did that, you got put some shares, and you can see this is kind of my setup after that happening. This 35 April covered call with a $20 January protective put. This protective put getting paid for by the covered call. This is known as a collar strategy. So my hope on this is this gap action. Black candle gapping down as a retest gap. I hope and intention is that Momo does something like this, trades higher. I can buy to, sell to close this protective put, end up buying another protective put, obviously hoping Momo trades up even higher, get exercise at 35 at some point, or buy to close that covered call if needed. And I mean, that would be a pretty solid gain if that happens on Momo. What is that? 12 points. So 50% return-ish. Really wouldn't be that upset on that particular trade. So yeah, speaking of nice covered call, here's US Steel. US Steel today hit one of my really strong resistances at 32.13. The high of today, in fact, was 32.16. A lot of traders, Niels, Christensen, Amy, a few other traders are in US Steel, $33 January covered call. My good brother, one of my older brothers, Gary, well, all my brothers are older, but my brother Gary had some shares of US Steel. He sold today, locking good profit. Shout out to you, Gary, well done. I have another request for AMAT. And AMAT Applied Materials, look at this one for Sandra. What was interesting about AMAT, and what we have to take away, folks, is there's no way to miss this resistance. I mean, look at this thing. Look at this trend. And this is not Bitcoin, by the way. All right, this is some random tech stock. So just, I mean, honestly, Bitcoin had more pullbacks than AMAT did from a percentage standpoint. So just throwing that out there. AMAT traded right to the highs of its 2000 tech bubble, poked its head above. That's where all the newbies hopped on bullish, thinking it was breaking out, saying, oh yay, the trend is finally confirmed bullish right here. They're getting on, now they're getting hosed. Stock pulls back and pulls back into a nice kind fashion. So this is the weekly chart, monthly chart. Here's the weekly, and here is the daily. So pulling back to this triangle breakout on AMAT. So here's that little resistance right here, kind of this upper trend line right about there. So some type of retest on AMAT. It'll probably hang out here for a while. That's my thoughts. I think AMAT consolidates. You're at the 100 simple moving average. That looks good. Overall, we probably consolidate for a bit. Lending Club. I just wanted to throw this one out there. I've mentioned this one before, and there are a few traders. I think Brian Sharkey and a few other, Drake, Adam, many other traders. I mentioned that this was an exhaustion gap on Lending Club, and it would probably fill. This was back in May 2016, and I've been giving Lending Club a chance for a long time. Had about 2,600 worth of Lending Club, and just never did anything. So at this particular point, along with shares and my actual Lending Club account, I am just being accountable, letting you all know that I'm closing that out very soon. I'm beginning the process right now of selling some of my Lending Club loans, getting all that situated, and I'm going to take all the cash and investment that I had in Lending Club shares and or the portfolio, and putting all that into cryptocurrencies, putting more into cryptocurrencies, in fact. Yeah, incredible stuff. Cryptocurrencies, digital assets, Bitcoin, Ethereum, Litecoin, whatever you want to call it. But Lending Club, I think I'm wrong on it. I'm pretty sure I'm wrong on it. And this exiting, I'm not saying that it can't bounce. Let me just kind of make sure we're there. I'm not saying it can't bounce. In fact, this is a pretty terrible time to sell shares. But on the offset of that, I've been in it for a long time, and I just see that there's going to be more return on some of the really nice, high-moving, good, beautiful, easy-to-determine trends rather than Lending Club. So just kind of throw that out there, letting you all know that's kind of my viewpoint. Speaking of Bitcoin, I mean, hitting 13,300 today. You know, I posted that Bitcoin, I made a big article, video, podcast that Bitcoin would hit 40,000 back at 10. Got a lot of comments about that one, saying I was a little bit crazy. We'll see. We will see. Yes, Bitcoin is at all-time highs, and I agree. The trend is not sustainable. But folks, we just had a pullback in November. A decent 30% pullback. And again, when we're looking at AMT, right, I just showed you, AMT didn't have any pullbacks on that time frame. So here's a pullback on Bitcoin. Here's a pullback on Bitcoin. That was June, July. Here's one just a few months ago. So from here, this is a wave 3. We'll get to wave 4 probably in, I don't know, a week and a half, 2 weeks. And I think that'll be a wave 5 Bible, which we could see 20,000 by January, which is just insane to talk about. But yes, and the rumors are true. If you've been hearing some rumors floating around, I do plan on creating a cryptocurrency digital asset program here pretty soon. And it will be better than all the other people teaching it. I've just seen some terrible representations of what cryptocurrencies are, how to trade them, how to approach them. And I just want to do it better than everyone else. So that's going to be my goal coming up in the next few weeks. So keep your eyes peeled for stuff about that. Otherwise, yeah, if you want to get week-to-week updates and sometimes day-to-days, I talked about this not too long ago. I do have a new cryptocurrency podcast, patreon.com/IndustRev4. And again, I'll put a link in the description box, but you can also pause this and check it out right there. But bottom line, giving weekly cryptocurrency updates, talked about just last week to anyone who subscribed to that, buying Bitcoin at 10 grand when it broke above this high wave candle on the hourly chart. So here's the hourly. So if you did that, you're already up, oh, I don't know, 30% in weeks. Very nice little double bottom right there. And that was it. Talking about, hey, if it breaks above there, hop in and let this sucker ride. And she is riding. So yes, I agree. Very volatile market. A lot of opportunities though, if you know how to trade it. And, you know. Also, speaking of Bitcoin, I figured you guys might find this kind of interesting. I'm also going to post a link to this in the description box if you want a piece of this action. Found out that a real-life trader actually makes these, and this is a pretty cool product. Bitcoin, Ethereum, and Litecoin Christmas ornaments. So, you know, for the Christmas tree or wherever else you want to hang them, the glass ornaments. So if you want a piece of these, pretty cool. I'm going to be picking me up some for sure. So anyway, just supporting some local real-life traders with some crafts and, you know, at that time of the year, gifts being given, people enjoying the company of each other, merriment all around. Here's NTES. This was also requested, NetEase. And here's the weekly chart on this particular stock. I just don't see anything exciting about this one right now. Large bullish moves. Again, huge trend. The numbers are different, but the chart, this is probably what Bitcoin will do. Just looking at this thing, I mean, you get these huge pops. We're probably right here in the Bitcoin frame of just this particular chart. I'm just looking at the trend, right? And you're getting these massive moves, very volatile, huge up and down swings. And yeah, so I think at this point, you got a retest gap here on a weekly chart. And this weekly chart, a little bit of a retest gap. I think we can pull back a little bit lower on NTES. We had a very strong move 3 weeks ago. Huge run up from 280 to 250. So if you're looking at taking that, just wait, be a little bit patient, and keep your eyes peeled on that one. And last but not least for today, OPNT, Opiant Pharmaceuticals. Looks like she's about to roll over. Looks real weak. Granted, it just traded to the 100 something moving average. So what I can say is, if OP&T bounces off of here, it should. And if it doesn't, it's going to be a really boring, long-winded, yawn, snoozing fest of the stock that probably won't do very much. So give it about a week or two at most to see if you can catch a little bit of a bounce on that thing. Folks from around the world, thanks so much for tuning in. You are amazing. If you have any stocks that you want me to look at, remember, all you have to do is request them in the comment section below, and I'll do it for free. For free! What? See you Friday.